Well, hello and welcome back to Theotek. We've been off the air for a few weeks, but we're here tonight, and we have most of our regulars. Hopefully Wes will join us in a moment, but we've got LaRosa. How's it going, LaRosa? He's muted.
It's going well. Been
Good,
a busy week so far, but glad to be here.
good. And we've got Antoine Wright,
Hey guys, how's it going?
live from the future, and of course we've got Kevin Purcell, and he's sitting next to someone there. Kevin, tell us who's sitting beside you.
Well, this is my lawyer, and I'm under indictment, and so I figured it was best to have him along in case. No, this is my son, Daniel. He's a newly graduated high school, now about to be college student in just a little bit.
Hey, I could pull off a lawyer. I watch Suits.
Yeah, he watched Suits today.
Oh, yeah, if you watch Suits, you see my mug here. Do you recognize this?
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah. This is my lawyer gave me this. So I'm Rick Mansfield, of course, and so I was, maybe to kind of preface some of our discussion for the show tonight, I was over in Japan, and I was there for accordance, and we were walking around Tokyo, and I was with one of my coworkers, and my coworker kept looking at his phone, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm trying to find I'm trying to play this Pokemon Go." And I said, "You're trying to poke what?" And no, I didn't really. I knew what he was talking about, but he said that he was trying to play Pokemon Go, and of course we were in Japan, where supposedly Pokemon originated, and it wasn't there. It wasn't anywhere to be found. That's there now, from what I understand. But it's kind of taking the world by storm, right? It's become very popular, and I'll say up front for everyone watching here, so maybe folks won't tune out too quickly if they're not playing at all. I have not played, and part of the reason I have not played is a little bit of a confession. Things like this, I can just get way too obsessed with. And so, a few years ago when Foursquare was new and you check into places and become Foursquare mayor when you had checked in enough times, I got obsessive about it. If someone dethroned me as mayor, I'd go out of my way to drive somewhere, check in so that I could be mayor. And so I have not attempted to play Pokemon Go because I'm just afraid that it would just eat up my time and I would become obsessive. However, maybe Daniel, you can tell us a little bit about Pokemon Go. Explain to someone like me, who has never actually played and just has a rough idea of what it's about, exactly how Pokemon Go works.
Well, you got to catch them all.
That's what I hear.
It came out a few weeks ago, and you have a little avatar, and you search the world using the GPS. If you can see it very well.
That's
yeah.
The camera's adjusting a little bit.
But yeah, if you look closely, I don't have very many Pokestops around or some Pokemon to even catch at our house. About 5 miles around our house, there's nothing.
Yeah, we live out in a rural area, so there's next to nothing near us.
But
so wait, well, let's back up a minute. Again, for someone who doesn't know what we're talking about, catch. What are we catching, and is this legal? Do you have to have a license? How does this work?
Pocket monsters.
Yeah.
Pocket monsters.
So you catch something and you put it in your pocket?
Well, you've got. Yeah. There's a game called Pokemon, and it's been around since the 90s. And the basis is you live in a world where there's these little animals, they call them Pokemon, and there's hundreds of them. And the main character of most of the games, which is usually you, are going to try and catch them all, and you battle your Pokemon. And you catch them with these little things called Pokeballs. So I don't know, it's kind of fun because it makes you actually feel like you're actually catching Pokemon this time around instead of just holding out your DS or your Game Boy and you're roaming the little world they've created, but now you're actually roaming your own world.
So you actually go outside to play this. It's not like you're sitting there holding something or using pencil and paper and multi-sided dice or anything like this, right?
No, it's all on your phone. It's an app, and it's kind of Nintendo's way of saying go outside for once, you know.
Actually, the news came out that Nintendo doesn't really own it anymore, do they?
Oh,
And
really?
so their
No,
stock went way down.
I didn't
No,
even know.
no. Nintendo owns 34% of the Pokemon Company. The Pokemon Company is one of many licensed franchises for Nintendo, and they own a third, if you will, of the licensing that has gone into this game. So it's not that so much they don't own it, but they don't own all of it, which is misconception. It's nothing that they hadn't already said already. Just really convenient. Folks happy about a game kind of forgot that on the announcement.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool because it has like this virtual or this augmented reality. You know, virtual reality is where you got a fake reality in, say, like a pair of goggles or something that you wear. This augmented reality, you're looking at the real world, but then it superimposes something above it.
So like that picture right there that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's
a tree that's really there, but when you look at that tree through your phone, you see this baby dinosaur.
Right.
Yeah.
And you try to throw this little ball at it, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I mean,
yeah, you have to flick it, and you have to do it like just right. Like you can't go too fast or too slow. You have to sort of barely go into it with a little speed, and you'll be able to catch it.
Oh, okay, I didn't know this part of it. So you're actually flicking your phone? Is that what you're doing?
You're sliding your finger across the screen.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, people would be breaking phones.
Yeah, there's actually I saw online somewhere. I think it was Imager. This guy had screenshotted a text conversation with his friend, and he says, "Throw the Pokeball at it." And the next thing you see is an email, a screenshot, and it has a picture of the guy holding his broken phone.
Yeah, I can see that.
So he's like, "You didn't actually throw your phone at it, did you?"
You did. So how much of this have you played?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
When I was at that campgrounds at that college.
He went to camp, last week, was it?
Yeah,
no,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. He went to a summer mission camp where they do mission work.
And that place was saturated to the max with Pokemon stuff. And I only got to play a little bit because we were busy most of the time, but I leveled up mostly through when I was there. But here, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, you could go to Hickory, so that's what my friends all did. They drove to Hickory, but I'm not wasting gas.
So the crazy thing is people are using this, and like, have you heard stories about people actually getting hurt? And
yeah, like this one lady was on the highway or something, and why she went on the highway.
I was watching TV, and they were showing people walking down the streets in it was coverage of the convention in Philadelphia, and so they were in somewhere near the convention hall in Philadelphia. And these people, all these young people, are walking down the streets, looking at their phone. And one guy walks into a food truck, because he's not paying attention.
There's actually a YouTube video that has like a bunch of highlights of people playing Pokemon Go, and like they're tripping and running into stuff.
So on one hand, it's good that people are getting out, but this has been an issue for a while. People walk around, with their heads in their phones. When we were in Seoul in South Korea a few weeks ago, on the sidewalks at crosswalks, they have these warning signs. And even though I couldn't read the Korean, I still understood it was basically saying not to be looking onto your phone as you're crossing the street. And yet, this might be an encouragement to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to be aware of your surroundings.
Are there Pokemon characters like in the middle of the road sometimes?
Well, it's randomly generated, so it's not like they're purposely putting them in the road, but it can happen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Could they even be like on maybe a military base or something where you can't go?
One of the members at our church works at a water treatment plant, and they said people were trespassing, trying to catch Pokemon. Wow.
Yeah, he posted on Facebook, "There are no Pokemons at the water treatment plant. Do not try to come in here." So, pretty funny. Well, thanks, Daniel, for educating us old people about Pokemon a little bit.
So have the rest of you been playing this? Am I the only one who's not doing it? Well, we lost Antoine. Where did he go?
Yeah, he jumped out, it looks like.
You went to go play Pokemon.
He went to play Pokemon.
Sure, that's it. So have the two of you been playing?
I have not played it. I haven't downloaded it. I've got some coworkers that have played it. They actually went out for lunch about a week or two ago. A whole group of coworkers went down to the park, which is like a 10-minute walk from our office, and tried to play Pokemon Go, and there were like tons of people there that were playing.
I don't know what that was.
What about you, Kevin?
I played once. I just wanted to see what it looked like, so I went ahead and downloaded it on my iPhone, and I happened to be going out to the car to go do something, and so I downloaded it, opened it, went outside, and there was one in our front yard. Apparently, they throw one at you no matter where you're at, just so you can check it out. And so, I'm sitting there flicking that ball like crazy, and it's going over the top of the thing. I couldn't catch it to save my life. Finally, I got lucky and hit it, and that's the extent of my Pokemon Go activity.
So
Each one of you played Pokemon Go?
I do. I try to put in a few hours a week.
Some people go to the gym. Some people.
Well, it's pretty fun. So a lot of people are playing Pokemon and really addicted to it. I'm not so addicted to it because I put it on the iPad that doesn't go with me everywhere. So I didn't put it on my iPhone. I put it on my iPad Mini. And so that
started
allows
on
me
my iPad Pro. Walk around like.
I started to, but yeah. But I do play it a few hours a week. There's actually a Pokestop not too far from me. That's a few.
Now, what is that?
Yeah, tell
the Pokestop.
What a Pokestop is.
Sure. Okay, so with Pokemon, you play the role of a trainer, and your goal is to catch these monsters, pocket monsters, and then train them so that they evolve to become better monsters. And then you either train them to fight against other folks, or you train them to trade with other trainers. These Pokestops are basically training facilities or gyms for these Pokemon. Now, instead of you, though, at this point, going to the Pokestop to train your respective Pokemon, you actually go there to go get new Pokeballs. If you think like Extra Men in Mario or something of that sort, every time you throw a Pokeball, you lose a Pokeball. You don't get an unlimited amount of these. So you have to go to a Pokestop to either get some eggs so that you can, hatch some new Pokemon yourself, or you get some extra balls so that, for those folks who might not be so directionally inclined on their mobile device to throw a Pokemon, they can get a few extra balls. And a lot of these Pokestops are at places such as churches, small businesses, libraries, etc., places where folks have frequented already for other geocaching type games.
Now, can I just say though that everything you just described here. Now I had read up on this, so I understand a little bit, but like if I was trying to explain this to my father, he would probably just think that we were crazy, that this is extremely silly. But in reality, there are people kind of all ages who are playing this, not just kids, but
everybody's playing
well.
this. Yeah, it's cutting. Well, Pokemon, I'm not sure what our audience is familiar with Pokemon, but Pokemon came out in the 90s, and it was kind of a cartoon version of the Tamagotchi. Everybody are little Tamagotchi guys, and it was popular. It was really popular. Pokemon hit the U.S. and they just kind of like skyrocketed all over the place, and little kids liked the idea of these trading cards of pocket monsters that evolved. And 90s were a really good time to have cartoons that were good. And so for Pokemon to come back, and especially in a fashion where it's on a mobile device, you already have the app centric idea already rolling. Folks are familiar with geocaching, who may have been doing this in the early 2000s and got bored with it. It's definitely sparked the imagination. Or re-sparked folks' imagination.
Now, if these little pocket monsters get wet, do they become vicious? I'm thinking of something else.
No, that's Gremlins. That's Gremlins. But
okay.
There are some that do get wet. There are water Pokemon.
No, of course.
Well, you said something that sparked my attention, and really it's the only reason that we're really even talking about this. I mean, people don't tune into Theotek to learn about silly games, but you said that a Pokestop can be at a church.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing? Like, how does a place become a Pokestop? Like, do I go to a website and sign up to be a Pokestop, or do I have to tell all my kids in the church, hey, everybody come here and play Pokemon all the time, so that we can become one? Or I mean, what does that mean? And
Yeah, now, so, well, Pokemon isn't the first game of its kind. The company that made it, Niantic, they actually released a game previously called Ingress. And Ingress is very similar to Pokemon, but what Ingress did was build a geocaching game similar to Pokemon, where people are on different teams collecting these chimes, something like that, really. And
That's what we heard earlier.
where people connected with one another, where they most congregated with one another, where a lot of these players were, the game makers decided to make these places resting stations or oases in that game Ingress. When they made Pokemon, instead of rebuilding the game from scratch and rebuilding the maps from scratch, they just put the Pokemon branding over top of what they already built. And in a lot of those places where there were these oases, Pokestops became these oases. And so it worked out. You know, it's not something that you have to do as a church to say, hey, I want my church to be a Pokestop. It's one part the algorithm that they're using right now to change up places. Some of the Pokestops do change, but a lot of the maps for a lot of areas are fixed. And so the churches that are Pokestops are also oases in Ingress. And
Well, speaking of churches that are Pokestops, Wes Allen has joined us.
hey,
And,
his church is a Pokestop.
Yeah,
I'm a
and I believe
Pokestop.
his church is a Pokestop. He can maybe Wes, you can tell us a little bit about your experience and how you've kind of turned your Pokestop church into a ministry.
Yeah, I just
And that sounds silly for me to even say. I'll just say it.
it's very bizarre. I just use it, and by the way, good evening. Sorry I'm late. We just use it, or I just use it to hang out and meet some folks who are just walking around town. And to me, it's a great excuse just to be out there, because we're having a heat wave in Philadelphia right now, so there's almost nobody out except for like parents who really need to get out with their children. And so I was out 2 days last week, and I'll probably do it again this week. Just in the afternoon for a couple hours, I would set up. You can buy a lure, so it's 99 cents, that's fine, and you apply it to the Pokestop, so it starts drawing the Pokemon in. And so people who are playing the game can see that, and so they come and hang out. What's going on over here? But I've probably met like 6 or 7 people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and I think only 3 of them were actually playing the game right then. Most were just walking around like they were playing, but they weren't playing right at that time. So they thought it was cool that we were there. And our Brazilian pastor was out there with me one afternoon too, so we got to meet and hang out with folks. So it was a lot of fun.
so you said you bought a lure. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 99 cents I bought a lure. Because I just wanted to see what
does that
impact it
mean?
would have.
Explain that. Is that? I mean, I know what a lure is.
It's an in-app purchase, so it's 99 cents for one. I think
this
it's
is
like
how they're making money.
So
how they're making money.
Pokemon are to my analogy earlier, Kevin, Pokemon are little animals, and these little animals are attracted to eating stuff because that's how they grow, that's how they evolve. And so one of the concepts inside of the Pokemon universe, aside from the Pokestop, was you had certain people who weren't trainers, but they farmed, and they made lures where Pokemon would come and congregate. And Pokemon would come around there, and trainers knew that was a good place because there was a Pokemon gym usually nearby, or a Pokemon battle stop nearby where they can go ahead and battle and train and all that good fun stuff. And so that's what's really happening here, is that this in-app purchase is allowing venues to be places where these pocket monsters congregate, and therefore their trainers will also come.
Yeah, there's a little memorial park in the center of town, and if you go down at night, there's like 60 people out there playing. I was out with neighbors tonight, but they were our town was having like their concert in the park, and I'll guarantee you there were probably like 100 people playing.
Now, haven't you been giving out bottled water and stuff?
Yeah,
like
I've just been giving out bottled water, tossing it to people and going through. And I did a blog post on it because one of the things that was interesting is I drink my water. People don't accept it the first time out. They won't. Like, you offer them water, they don't want it. One guy was actually honest in why he wasn't accepting it. He's like, he looked at me funny, he goes, "Do I have to sign anything?" I'm like, "No, I'm just giving away water." He was like, "Okay, that's pretty cool." And then he finally took it. Most people would only take it after I offered like a second or third time after we had like a 2 or 3 minute conversation. And that actually really, for me, I'm playing Pokemon of all things, and I'm having evangelistic insights because we always want to go for the big push at the end. You know, get them to sign up for salvation on the dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people won't accept water from you if they don't know you. Do you think they're going to, you know, accept a completely life-altering reality from you if they don't have a clue who you are? And not only that, for us, not only do we have to make room for them to get to know who we are, we actually have to allow them room so that they can get to know who Jesus is. And we want to skip through all that so oftentimes to get to the end. And just handing out water to Pokemon players really kind of reminded me of that.
Do you think next summer there's going to be Pokemon Vacation Bible School? You know,
you know what? I really hope not.
Okay.
Knowing evangelical and commercial Christianity the way that it is, I almost am assured that there's going to be something like that. The Methodist church down the street, and I God bless them for trying, but it's just that go big. Everything's got to be big, 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 and they're giving away food, and they have like this whole spread out in front of the thing. And I walked down and I said, well, here's some water for you to play. And they're like, that's one thing we forgot. I'm like, guys, it's 98 degrees with 140% humidity. You forgot water. So they're just folks are going overboard with it. Like, this is the big thing, and it's the classic example of a Christian jumping on a fad, and there's no need for it. You know, people are walking around doing this. Just pause and just get to know them.
Well,
there's one church.
Go ahead, Loris.
There was one church where a coworker of mine, he had been filling in because were looking for a pastor. Well, they finally got one within the last month, and now that Pokemon Go has come out, one of the things that they realized that they are a Pokestop, so they've actually put a sign out in front of their church letting people know that they are a Pokestop.
Yeah.
Trying to get people to come in, which is, in some ways, is not a bad thing because it's getting people to come in the doors that probably normally wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways, I kind of wonder how effective that really is. Instead of doing just like what you're doing, just sitting out there, just being there.
And I would have done that when it came out. I was on vacation when it happened, but I was actually encouraged because our Lutheran pastor in town, they're right on our main street, and he was out every day my second week of vacation. There was one day where it was pouring rain, and he was out there. People are playing, so I'm going to be out here where they are and see what they're doing. And I was encouraged by that. So that really kind of encouraged me to follow through with it and just and you know, see who I met.
Well, isn't there a theological principle to going where people are? You know,
yeah, it's the whole concept of the agora. Now we have one.
You know, I hear you, LaRosa, when you're saying that, you know, it feels strange, and you know, I hear it from old and young. You know, that it's obtuse for a believer to use this Roman road or virtual Roman road in order for an evangelistic tool. But is it really all that different? You know, if we're going where people are, or at least traveling where they travel, you know, the idea of a suburb, the idea, you know, of a McDonald's, in a sense, on a Roman road was very much, you know, putting the believer in the way of somebody who was traveling, you know, and then offering them something that they needed, whether it be water or lodging. And, because I'm serving you, you just might happen to hear the gospel along the way.
Yeah, I met one of the workers from the Chipotle my wife and I always go to. He walked by, and he's like, "You look familiar." I'm like, "You work at Chipotle at Morristown Mall, don't you?" He's like, "Yeah, that's where I know you from." He lives across the street from the church, but he lives on the opposite side of my house, so I never see him. And so I know like his whole life story at this point because he stopped while I was giving out water playing Pokemon. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I've seen him like 8 times since then.
I think you guys have talked already about, you know, like, well, Rick, you mentioned, you know, Pokemon Vacation Bible Schools, and while I doubt that anybody's going to want to pay the rights to do that, but you know,
they'll come up with their own version.
Well, they'll do it without paying the rights.
Someone will jump hold and use that. I think what Wes is doing, I think that's the awesome way to respond to this, and that is, it's sort of just hey, you care about people, and you care about this, and so put them together and marry it and make something good out of it. I would, you know, like,
and I'm playing the game.
I showed you these signs that, find Pokemon outside, find Jesus inside. See, I don't know.
No, that drives me crazy. It's awful.
But saying, like you said, hey, we're a Pokestop, is that what they call it, or a Pokemon stop? Anyway,
Pokestop.
Pokestop.
If you say, hey, we're a Pokestop, what's wrong with that? I think that's cool, Why not?
Sure. Or come in and get a glass. You come in and get some water, or use the bathroom, or that's stuff like that.
You're not requiring anything, and it'll surprise people. Hey, the church cares about me as a gamer, someone who likes to play this game. He didn't ask me for anything. He didn't. If you start trying to push the church on them, I think that'll defeat the purpose of it.
Wait, because you're not trying to get to know them. You're trying to sell them something.
But then if they ask,
all bets are off.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, what do you know? What do you want to know? That kind of thing.
Well, Kevin, you make a really good point. You kind of hit it and ran away from it, but the church does a very good job of talking to people who come to it.
Mm-hmm.
We hit a certain type A, C type personality, but a gamer, to stereotype somebody, is not somebody who's ordinarily going to walk into a church. They may come past the church or, remember that they had a really crappy memory when they would walk past one, but that's not going to be somewhere where they're going to willingly want to engage somebody on the road to finding out what a game looks like or engaging, whatever a gamer would engage. This is an opportunity to get to those personalities, those characters, if you will, that the church, for lack of better terms, doesn't have a language for. There's a few of the groups that I've run in, they are Christians who do gaming, and they're excited because they finally got to put Halo down and do the same ministry they're doing in Halo on the street.
In real world.
Pokemon allowed them to get out the house.
Listen, my son has gone out with his friends 4 or 5 times. We're going out poke hunting. It was 90+ degrees outside, and I have not seen this many teens and preteens walking the streets during the daylight hours in I don't know how many years. They're all just so whatever, like any game that does that, God bless it. I'm perfectly happy.
It's great. Now I won't say that it's all good. You mentioned that you did, you're stepping out there, Wes, but there's a lot of businesses around where I am. I'm in Laurel, Maryland, where there's just a boatload of small businesses, and many of them have signs up, Pokestops are for paying customers only.
I'm not sure how you enforce that. I mean, there's also people who are using lures, because the lure, when the lure is active, it shows up on the map, and they're using it to draw people in to come into parks at night and mug them.
Yeah.
So there's negative aspects to just about anything.
Predators could use these lures.
So it's all about readjusting. You have to know how to do something wisely with wisdom. Which again, this is what the church is supposed to be teaching.
This is what it's for. But you know what? We might have lost that sense. You mentioned that your kids, Wes. You're happy that he's out. Hot or whatever, but he's out with other kids, and the kids are outside. But hasn't it only been a half decade where we started saying, how come the kids aren't outside? You go down a block. I was in Philadelphia recently, and I went down old neighborhood, and it was exciting to me to see a block party where they cut put a block off. I was like, people are still doing this? I haven't seen this in 10 years.
Yeah, they do it around here.
Folks don't go outside. And this is getting people outside. This is getting folks aware of their surroundings for good and for bad.
And there's 2 cool things. The first one is an image I saw, and I don't really generally like memes, but this one was all the people who are making fun of folks running around catching Pokemon right now are about to start picking their fantasy sports teams. Which was it's exactly right, because there's a type of camaraderie, the fact that you're running around trying to catch them all. And I'll tell you, this last week we were at Panera, and I'm waiting for my food, and my son has his phone out, and he goes, "Dad, there's a Squirtle," and 3 other people heard it, and everybody ran to the corner. Of course, I get out my phone, and I'm trying to catch the Squirtle too. And everybody's, "Oh my gosh, it's a Squirtle! We have to catch the Squirtle!" And there's suddenly there's 8 people in this corner of Panera where the food's being delivered, and the manager looking at these kids and going, "I've seen people who are 30 playing this game," and I raised my hand and went, 43. I just caught the Squirtle. So he just started laughing.
Having not played, what you're describing just sounds crazy.
Oh, it's insane. But it's
Well,
the fun part of.
let me ask this question, because I think might have been you, Wes, earlier, who used the word fad. Obviously, it's a fad, but some fads
Sure.
last longer than others. 2016, summer of 2016, might be remembered for Pokemon Go. But will you think people will still be playing this summer 2017? Will they amp it up to where there's
If they amp the game up and add training and
I
Pokemon
mean,
battles, and the reason why, Rick, is because it's tied into more than just a fad. It's kind of like fad meets nostalgia meets like a genuinely fun thing.
well, and when you say training, does that mean like go sign up for a class at the
No,
paintball
no, no. Like
range? No.
trainers can battle, so they'll be like, "Hey, can your Squirtle take on my Ponyta?" Um,
Again, that just sounds crazy.
it's
it
bizarre.
is crazy. Well,
But
hold
is it
on.
any more bizarre than like walking up to someone who's wearing a sports hat and be like, "Wow, how about that game last night?" Like I'm walking up to people who are walking around their friends going, "Did you catch anything good near here?" And it's the weirdest thing. Like I never talk to anybody when I'm walking the
And
street.
in a few months you're going to say that, and some hunter's going to pull squirrels out of the back of his hunting vest. 'Cause,
Well, not around here, but
Oh,
yes,
okay.
up there where you are, yes, I'm sure that would happen. And then, of course, in that case, we can have some squirrel stew, and that would be fine.
Because
I've
he's going
never
to think you
actually done
said
that.
squirrel instead of squirtle. I believe I just said that word.
But
And
it's insane. Rick, it really is insane. And there's a lot of hardcore gamers right now that are trying to be like, well, Ingress is a better game, and it really is a better game, but it lacks one major thing.
People.
It doesn't have Pokemon,
No,
which is
it
why
lacked
the
the
people are going to it.
Yeah,
So
Ingress is cool, but oof, man, Pokemon is definitely like 20 levels better.
I couldn't get into
And the
Ingress at
nice thing
all.
too about Pokemon is it's really to a point now where it's spanning generations.
Yeah, they didn't have any idea there was going to be a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds playing this game.
Yeah.
and is this a non-violent game? I mean, because I'll be honest, a lot of the video games that I've played in the last 10 years involve shooting
Well, right
people
now
or
it's a
Yes.
non-violent game, so this is the part that when Wes talked about future stuff for the game that's going to be interesting.
Pokemon trainer battles.
Pokemon trainer battles, when they did the card game, the Pokemon card game, you might have a kid come home with a bloody nose because somebody took their Pikachu, you know, or something of that
This
sort.
did happen.
is
So,
this a virtual see, I
No,
still
this
didn't
was
get
when
that.
they had the collectible trading card game.
no, they had
Okay.
the trading card game. This was also a card game in the mid early
It
90s.
still is. My
Oh yeah,
sons
we can play it.
have been playing this game, the Pokemon card game, for the last 2 years, and one of them's 22 and the other one's 18. So
See, when I was a kid, I would have gotten beat up just for saying you stole my
yeah.
Pikachu or whatever, So
Well, when you were a kid, you would have been talking about baseball cards like this. So
probably
it's
so.
you know
Yeah.
Right.
same thing.
Back in my day.
And that's probably the caution. I'm actually in the middle of writing an article about this, but that's probably part of the caution that the church should be very careful of. A lot of people that don't understand what's going on and call it a fad
Mm-hmm.
are probably not paying attention to that they had a very similar fad, maybe not at the same age, but they engage in similar items. Wes mentioned flag football, I mean fantasy
Fantasy
football.
football.
That fantasy football is god awful huge, and I don't think New York State is going to shut down Pokemon because it's taking money from the tax line like it did fantasy football. People do enjoy the idea of getting out, meeting other people, and just about having fun with a almost random game. It's almost the confluence of events that's making this pretty cool and pretty scary for what's to come.
It's Rick.
Well,
It's interesting in the video game.
Ooh, look, I got one.
I have mine open. I haven't caught one right now. What do you got?
It's a little rat.
Put it up there again.
Is
Right
that
there.
is that a rat-a-tat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
We're
see.
nerds. The
Can I do it with
some of you are, yes.
yes, we're definitely nerds.
There you go.
In the game, the trainers battle one another with their Pokemon, but it's very it's a rather interesting way that it does it because it's always done in the nature of friendly competition. Like you almost look forward to losing because you met someone who's better than you and you have something to aim for. So there's something that whenever I played the Pokemon handheld games, that was something that always kind of struck me as rather interesting.
Hey, should I do a live demo?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, can you guys see Ratatat?
You have to aim down.
Aim
Pan down, pan down, pan down. Oh, you're doing the AR mode. That's cool. There's Ratatat.
So the goal, boom, because I usually get these on the first go.
Nice. Plus 50 experience points. And the game, Rick, is really an RPG.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and there's the depth of the video games, like the handheld games, is bizarre. So one of my friends is a PhD from Temple. My second year down here, I was playing Pokemon Pearl, and there was a special giveaway at Toys R Us where you could get a special water Pokemon called Manaphy that had like a special item that you would not get anywhere else. And my son had gotten like a gratis subscription to Nintendo Power, and I saw it in there. And I call up my friend. I'm like, Jim, we have to go over and do this. He's like, okay. So Sunday afternoon, you have to understand, there's like 7 post-undergrad degrees in a car, driving with 2 of our sons to Toys R Us to download a virtual monster.
Okay.
And he goes all out. Like he breeds them, and he knows how to feed them different way to get their stats up different ways, and I mean it's bizarre. You could spend hours doing this.
So Oliver Stone has this theory that this is all part of a plot to, I don't know, take over something. I don't know. I didn't read the whole thing.
No.
Is there anything nefarious with all of this?
Yes.
So Google
there's
had full
incredibly
access to your
nefarious.
account for a while.
There is something incredibly nefarious about this. So Niantic used to be a company under the Alphabet/Google umbrella.
Correct.
And those folks were very, very good at building low bandwidth mapping applications. And Google's quest to organize all the world's information finds itself at various stopping points. Namely, people turn on Google Maps when they drive, not necessarily when they walk. And so it makes it very hard to get very specific directions to places, or at least the exact distances to items when people turn their GPS off when they're in the parking lot. This game was developed in part to get a better understanding of how people move around in walking spaces with mapping applications. And
To
so,
what end? What's the point of doing that?
well, that having people's movements tracked everywhere they go, so that they can and can't go places with and without it's 1984 Minority Report.
Seems kind of scary.
Scary, sure. No more or less scary than swiping a magnetic stripe to tell people that you want to pay for things.
And also your smartphone's already kind of doing that by itself. So
yeah. So what happened with this company? They spun off. They don't do necessarily the. They still do the mapping GIS piece, but their rule from one of the rules from their spinoff was that they have to highly anonymize information, and that's one part hard and easy to do. Ingress and now Pokemon kind of give them a better window into getting that kind of geolocation data without necessarily compromising people's privacy.
especially now that they've corrected their permissions.
Yeah, well, the permissions, they can't, do something nefarious to your Google account to which you sign up with.
Well, no, they when they first released it, if you logged in with your Google account, you gave them total access to your Google account.
That was an accident, right?
It was a coding mistake, yeah. And they fixed it almost immediately. But that was a little scary.
I didn't download it until after that, personally. But
I actually deleted. They have no access to my data right now.
Let me ask you guys something. Where is this going?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, that's easy.
Of not just games, but You know, it's often gaming is often on the cutting edge of computing,
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
and the
no.
rest of computing follows behind it. So,
And
Where's it
this was
going?
the most downloaded app ever, right? So this is really kind of the launch of augmented reality for the general populace.
yeah, for mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
It's
where's
funny
it
because I
going?
turned my AR mode off, but that's okay.
Where is it going? Let's answer that. So okay, so some of the things that augmented reality enables. One, driverless cars for vertical industries, public transport. So it's very hard, really speaking, to do driverless cars because you have to basically upload the map, and they have to redraw the map until optics get a lot better. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one area it's going. Another piece is that there is actually some sociology work being done around um, how does your brain make a friend?
Mm-hmm.
um, Effectively, how do you associate with other people, and what are you likely to associate with other people with? Where do you do this association? Some of that data has already been done as it relates to cellular. It's just getting pushed a little bit more now, especially in some more repressive areas,
Mm-hmm.
countries, regions where people don't want folks of different castes or different economic areas or races, cultures speaking with one another. This is a way to kind of track those movements before instigating those particular laws. Another area that this is popping up is going to be in global travel. So right now you have the ability with global entry to all but walk from one country to another without too much of a hiccup. Augmented reality and its similar mixed reality friend will allow the cameras, recording devices that give you access to these areas more carte blanche to kind of figure out who you are, based on time, position, etc. Are you allowed to be in this space without
Yeah.
necessarily having to do the queue? There's some medical applications to all of this, and there's a few dozen others. But yeah,
I mean, it's going to get tied into iCommerce and like that. The whole, remember iBeacons that made a splash and then disappeared?
they're here. Oh no, they didn't disappear.
They're around, but it's going to get to the point where if you're a local business and you do not have an iBeacon set up for augmented reality, you might as well not even have a sign up in front of your shop.
Yeah,
Because you'll
kind of
be
like
able to
having
you'll be
Google.
able
It's
to
not
turn
having
the
a Google.
camera on it and see the specials and everything. And it'll just be up there. So those are all types of things that are coming with it.
Yeah. So surprise, your future is constantly monitored, whether you like it or not. Um, and that's okay. And I mean that. For the church, you have to be okay with the idea that unless you're directing the technology and building this, that you're going to have to actually maneuver around it. It's, you can't direct the Roman road. You have to direct what's going to be done on the road, so to speak.
You're sure we shouldn't head to the hills?
You can head to the hills all you want to, but those have been mapped, and there's Pokemon there too.
All right.
You cannot run away.
Nah, that's unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, I live on both sides of this. It's okay and it's not okay that a company that I have no care about knows more about my movements than I do. And so if you're not okay with that, you have to opt out of the mobile phone. You have to opt out of most commerce. You have to opt out of pretty much everything. I mean, it's not even off the grid. You kind of have to go off the grid, and there are fewer and fewer places to be able to do that and effectively live.
The Amish don't even do that.
Yeah, they're on the grid.
Well, I had no idea that I wasn't sure whether we'd be able to talk more than 10 minutes about all this, but it's now a quarter till, and so maybe we'll make a transition here to our favorite things. Hopefully it's not Pokemon related. I don't know, but does anyone have a favorite thing that you want to go over to tonight?
I'll go
Yeah.
last because I talked a lot. But I got one.
Do you guys have one? Because I have one. I got to pull it out the box.
Well, here, do you have it?
Yeah.
Let me just quickly, mine will go quick, reiterate one that Rick did, I don't know how long ago, but you talked about getting a dedicated scanner and that you often will have the bindings of books cut off.
Right, yeah.
And do that. I've started doing that.
Isn't it great?
I've got these discipleship studies that I've been using in my church, but I really don't want to carry this little study book around. So I went down to local Staples and had them cut the binding off, and I started with my multifunction printer, an Epson. The problem was these things aren't 8.5 by 10, 11 inch. They're smaller than that, and so they were going in all because unfortunately that printer won't shrink. The guides on it won't go small enough to do that. And so I found this little guy. It's a Brother, and the model
like a document feed scanner.
ADS 1500W.
Sweet.
Okay, so you notice it's real compact and small when I'm not using it. When I want to use it,
I like.
it opens up like that. I put the things in there, and it'll do about 40 to 50 sheets at a time without, choking on it.
Nice.
So these little books, they're about 90-page workbooks, and so that was awesome. And so I went through this afternoon and I did the first one and got busy and didn't have time for messing around with the rest of them. But I did. There's 5 of these books in this series. I'm about ready to start book 3 on Sunday, and
Kevin, I've done that everything from these short books like what you're talking about to books over 700 pages.
Yeah,
that are never going to be available as ebooks.
Cool.
It makes it
and a lot of my books are on my shelf over in my office, and I've gotten so trained for digital books.
Yeah.
That it's like someone hands me a paper book, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and you can make these searchable because you run like an Acrobat or Abby Reader or whatever. You can put that OCR layer on top of it, but it still has the same layout of the original page. So that OCR layer is kind of invisible, but allows it to be searchable, to highlight it, to add annotations.
And if there's some like image in it that you want to use, say somewhere in Acrobat, you can just really quickly and easily select it, copy it, put it into PowerPoint or Keynote or something to do it.
And I'll give you an example of that. Zondervan produces these wonderful books. I don't know if they're still in print or not, but I have a number of them that were charts, charts of the Bible, charts of theology, these various things. And I think that they were really kind of put together before some of it was before the digital age maybe, but anyway, I've scanned a ton of those things, and it's like you say, you can put it into a PowerPoint or a Keynote or something, use it in a teaching setting, and it's probably never going to be available as a digital book otherwise.
Yeah. In addition to that, I had a stack of old mail about this high.
What's that?
I know I need to keep it. I know I need to save this. It's intelligent, but I don't want it, and so I just zoom, fed it in there, and have saved it on a folder on my drive that gets copied automatically to an external backup, and there I'm good to go. And I pitched all that stuff, and my office is so much cleaner now. Awesome. My wife came in here and went, "Wow, you worked hard." I said, "Nope, not really. Thanks to this thing."
I have 2 of them, Kevin. I've got a portable. Both of mine are Fujitsu, but I've got a portable one like what you just showed that I actually take with me at times. If I'm going to be gone a week, I'll take that thing with me because there's all kinds of documents like that I can just scan in real quick. And of course, there's scanner apps for iPhone or things that I can use too. But then I've got the big one. I've got the big Scan Snap from Fujitsu for those big projects that I do. I've got that one here on my desk. It's right over here.
So do they have like built-in memory so they can scan so many pages at once? Is that the way they work?
To be honest with you, I didn't go that far into the details. I got it from Amazon. It was a open box buy on Amazon, and so I got it. I opened it up, so that made it $50 less than what it normally costs. I plugged it in, loaded up the software, downloaded the update to the software, and
it worked.
In 15 minutes I was humming, and I haven't even looked at all those kinds of details. So I can't tell you anymore.
My big one is I've got connected to my computer via Wi-Fi. The portable one I use with USB, and actually with the big one I can do USB or Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi is just easy, and so if I want to be in the other room or whatever and can control it, I can. So
This one lets you turn the Wi-Fi on and the USB on.
yeah.
So I can plug it. I've got it plugged into that desktop computer. I've got a desktop system here that I'm a Windows PC that I'm working on tonight. But the Wi-Fi is on, so I haven't done it yet. But I'm going to load it onto my MacBook once I get my MacBook set back up, and
Cool.
you do it that way too, so I can use both.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
Well, let me do a follow-up then too. I took this. This is the Canon SX720HS, and I took it with me to Asia. And I showed this before I left. I wanted a camera that was a good camera, but was kind of flat like this, like a point and shoot, so I could put it in the side pocket of my cargo pants and wouldn't have to keep up with like an SLR. And so I took probably well over 1,000 pictures while I was in Asia over 4 weeks, about 30 videos, this is a 21 or 20.3 megapixel. The video, it'll do 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is really good. It won't do 4K, but it's still really good quality. And of course, it has a 40x zoom lens, which was very nice. It allowed me to get in very close for some things. I only had really 2 criticisms of it. The Wi-Fi connection for allowing it to stay connected to your phone, so that you could have GPS location on the photos.
Mm-hmm.
I found that too much to keep up with.
Gotcha.
And so usually what I would do is when I'd get to a location, I would take a photo with my phone so that I would have GPS information, and then I wouldn't worry about it. I would just take pictures with this. And then the image stabilization was a little bit disappointing. Canon's usually really good about image stabilization on these cameras for video. I've got actually a little bit of a it's a previous generation, but it was a kind of a step up from these. But in other words, it has a normal lens that protrudes. It had much better image stabilization than this one did. There were some videos that I took where I zoomed in really close, like I think I told you guys about the pastor at a church service that I attended that was all in Cantonese. I zoomed in on the pastor for part of his preaching, and it was just very shaky, which I don't think that I'd have had with my other camera that's also from Canon. So,
Rick, was it shaky or was it motion blur on his part?
No, it was a bit shaky for what I'm used to. From what I'm used to doing with, I've got a Canon SX50 I think HS that I took with me to Panama about 3 years ago that did great videos for that. Now they didn't do 60 frames a second like this one will do, but
right.
And that one would not have fit into my pocket easily. I always had this in my pocket with me the entire time, so it was great. Because the other reason I took that was because I knew that I would take a lot of pictures and video, and I didn't want to fill up my iPhone and then not be able to take any pictures. So
right.
if you're gonna go on vacation, obviously if you can take an SLR, that's the best thing you could do. But if not, take a dedicated camera so that you can take all the pictures and video you want without worrying about it.
Cool.
Who else has a favorite?
I do. Ready? I don't know if anybody can see this because it's coming on. That is Lightroom Mobile.
Yes.
The iOS app last week added RAW support, which means I can now take pictures with my DSLR and put them onto my phone and import them into Lightroom Mobile. I get back on Wi-Fi, it uploads to Creative Cloud, I open up my Mac, it downloads into my Lightroom library, which is what you've been doing with photos, I understand, Rick, but this just works better for me.
You know what they released today, don't you?
What's that?
They released the app for the Apple TV.
Oh, yes, I did see that. I haven't had a chance to now I'm thinking about doing the Apple TV. But this was cool. I was at Reading, Pennsylvania at a Phillies minor league baseball game on Sunday, and I took my phone, and I thought at the last minute, I threw in my little camera bag, I threw in the camera connection kit, and took my DSLR and took a bunch of pictures, and I was in the car on the way home. And my friend was, my friend's driving. I'm not doing this while I'm driving.
Oh, good.
And I uploaded, took them off the SD card, put them into Lightroom. I had probably about 90-95% of my edits done by the time I got to his house. So when I got home, literally I just had to put it into my Lightroom library on my Mac and upload them to Flickr. I mean, it was cool. That's been my dream for a very long time, to be able to do something like that, and that was really, really cool. So I was very happy. That is now a favorite thing.
Yeah, and Lightroom in the photo subscription for Adobe Acrobat CC is $10 a month.
I'm paying $7.99. They gave me a year discount.
Oh, so you pay for a whole year?
Yeah. Oh, it's
How
awesome.
much do you pay for the cloud storage?
You don't.
You don't, really?
Your photo storage is included. They might, now that they've added RAW support, they might regret that. But right now, it's.
So I have 41,000 photos and over 1,000 videos.
Well,
in my cloud.
Here's the thing.
I could just move all those over to it?
When my photo goes RAW from the phone to the Creative Cloud to Lightroom, it is the RAW file. It transfers the RAW file over. It only stores their Smart Preview, which is a lower res TIFF that you can still do all the adjustments on that you could do on a regular RAW file, and it'll sync those back up to it's called the sidecar file that controls all the different edits that you've done, but it's not the full res photo that they store in their cloud. Not typically.
So this is still assuming that your main device for manipulating these photos is still going to be a Mac or a Windows.
It's still going to, you're only going to be carrying a subset of your photos around on your phone.
Because I've made my iPad my main tool for editing, manipulating photos. So that it's probably not there yet for Adobe, but maybe soon.
I hope it gets there soon. If I could store all my RAW files in the cloud, I would love that, because I'd have my offsite backup.
Okay. Antoine, what do you have for us?
Cool. So recently, last month, it's July, last month I went to the ICCM conference, and one of the gentlemen that I met, him and I got into talking, and he's like, yeah, Antoine passed me a business card. So normally, we go to conferences, we carry a little stack of business cards. I do not carry business cards. I actually, even to this group, their business cards, they don't come anywhere with me. I don't like them. I purchased, actually before that conference, a ring, an NFC ring, and which was weird because I'm mostly Appled out with my hardware. I had to go recommission an old Nokia phone in order to program the NFC triggers on the ring. But this has totally become my new favorite thing. You guys joke that I'm from the future, but in this respect, I probably am. Because I use the NFC ring, or at least one of the antennas on the side of the ring is actually my business card. So what I end up doing is when somebody says, hey, can you pass me your business card? I say, yeah, sure. What kind of phone do you have? And, they say Android. They've probably not turned NFC off. And so I say, hey, let me shake the hands of your phone. And poof, a message pops up with a pre-programmed message that I did that basically says, hey, really nice to connect with you. Here's my address, or here's my business card. That's already pre-formatted for them. NFC ring on NFCring.com. They've been doing this for a few years. They were one of the earliest Kickstarter projects, and they met their goal. As a matter of fact, they met their goal and then some. They came out with a model a couple years ago, and then they came out with another model last year that had a little bit more memory. They improved the materials. This ring I wear now is a ceramic ring. I like that it's white because it's kind of similar to everything else that I wear. And then this year for the Olympics, for the Rio Olympics, they actually won a contract along with Visa to actually embed the NFC payment portion. So that part where we tap our phones and we pay against credit card terminals, they actually embedded that portion into the NFC ring so that athletes who are in the Olympic Village wouldn't have to carry a phone around. Theft happens to be a major issue there, but they can actually tap their ring against a payment mechanism in order to make a payment. And because of that, Antoine went out and bought another one because I'm experimenting with the idea of programmable rings and programmable jewelry. I can program my own jewelry with something that's not online. So this has definitely become my favorite thing. It's part of something fun, new, that I hope to unveil. LaRosa heard a little bit of my ideas last night, and he gave me an interesting emoji, so I think I got him thinking. a little bit as well.
Can you give your digital business card information like that to someone who has an iPhone, or is it just Android?
I cannot. So
Okay.
right now it's only Android. So only Android devices have that specific protocol with NFC to be able to receive or send information, which is a fun conversation in and of itself, because that gets me down the line of how I go do speaking engagements, the frailties of mobile and the digital decisions we make. But this is completely offline, and it doesn't have a battery. So I effectively have on one side my business card, and on the other side my in case of emergency. And the way these are designed, you can actually have it secure. One side is actually secure, and the other side isn't. So if you were, dealing with a computer that you could do NFC to unlock your computer or your phone. You can program it to do that. I actually found an NFC light switch that uses no power until the two NFC devices touch each other, and then it flicks the light switch on and off, which is pretty cool.
Every 24 hours, do you have to plug it into this lantern and say, in brightest day and blackest night?
No, but that would be, you got me, man. Oh, that would be awesome. I wish I could, man. I love Green Lantern.
But please, no CGI animated masks. Please.
What?
Yeah.
The veins of green, not flying hair wouldn't work. But no, it's this has honestly become my favorite thing, and with a few groups that I'm working with, it's actually a point of conversation because we're talking about transactions. Some of the stuff we talked about with virtual reality earlier, in regards to implications of a digital life that's always connected to somebody else's stuff. Here's something that's only connected to me. It's digital, it's interactive, but it's only connected to me. And what are the implications of running a highway where you got the state-controlled road on one side and you have your road running parallel to it on the other and stuff like that. So it's pretty fun. And like I said, I have a second one, so I'm actually got other playthings happening. I've become a jewelry guy recently.
Or you could give it to someone else and you could do this Wonder Twin powers activate.
That is part
Shape
of water.
I'm hoping that one of those pastors on Theotek would jump in with an idea with me to do a NFC enabled rings for a wedding ceremony. So that
I was just thinking that. What would that do? Like you embed your vows somehow in the NFC ring.
Yes!
Here's our life verse.
Yeah!
Yep.
Say it, LaRosa. Say it. Say it, LaRosa. Get off of mute and say it.
What is Ruler supposed to say? Do I even want to know?
That's exactly what we were talking about last night.
My brain hurts. And it's coming. It's coming.
Hey, can I interrupt this jocularity to make a correction based on something we inaccurately informed people of talking about Lightroom? If you have the photography only subscription or less, which means photography only or free on Adobe Creative Cloud, it's up to 2 gigabytes of storage. If you have the full, which is what I have, which includes everything, it's up to 20 gigabytes of storage.
But Kevin, I did check that out. Your smart previews from Lightroom itself, they don't count against your cap.
Okay, just the smart previews though.
The smart previews don't, but you can't do like full storage. Yes.
And just one other thing, the online editing feature, which I haven't really used much, is excellent. It has everything that you can imagine that an online version of Lightroom would have. Now, it doesn't have everything Lightroom has, but it has almost everything the mobile version of Lightroom has.
It's pretty cool.
Well, see, and I have Lightroom on my iPad Pro, so that when I am working with photos, occasionally I'll send one over to Lightroom, edit it there, and then send it back. Photos.
Pretty cool.
Sorry, just wanted to correct that.
Not a problem. Hey, LaRosa, you have to have a favorite thing.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
I do. I've already mentioned it like a couple of weeks ago, but it's the Scrivener iOS app.
Yes.
And I was on the beta, so I couldn't really talk about it, but I've been using it for about a month now, I think. Yeah. And so I've got this project that I'm working on, not ready to unveil it just yet, but it requires me to do quite a bit of writing. And so through Wes's prompting, a couple months ago when I first got the MacBook Pro, I bought the Scrivener Mac desktop app, and thankfully I was able to get half off on Stack Social. And so now I've gotten the iOS app, and it's really great because the two sync with one another through Dropbox, or you can just use iTunes to do it. But it's really great because about 90% of what I do, at least what I do, as far as writing on the desktop version, I can do on my iPad now. Or I can even do it on my iPhone if I really wanted to. So this past Saturday, I went to Starbucks. I was going to take my MacBook Pro, but then Antoine was like, no, go light. So I took my iPad mini, a Bluetooth keyboard, and my phone, and sat in Starbucks for 3 hours and just sat there and was writing in Scrivener. It was great. And then came back and did some of the stuff that I couldn't do on the iPad on the desktop version. So it was great.
And how much is Scrivener?
It's $20 on iOS.
But then you also have to pay again to get the Mac version to.
If you want to use it, you can use it.
Yeah.
And it's only, I mean, the Mac,
yet, right?
the Mac version, yeah, there is.
Oh, there is. Okay.
And it's $45.
Okay.
Which is dirt cheap, and Stack Social has it for half off, like every other month. It's because they're not the folks at the company's called Literature and Latte, which I think is just awesome. They're not like he's not trying to, gut huge amounts of money from this. I mean, he like, I need to be paid because I'm developing this. And he originally developed Scrivener because he was writing a book and another writing software did it. But now he develops Scrivener full time and he's never finished his book. That's like the ongoing joke in the forums. And so he just wants people to be able to use this tool, and it's really cool.
It's a great writing app.
So, and I fell in love with it. I opened it up on my iPad, and I was like, this is awesome. So, I mean, it's really cool. I'm really excited.
Yeah. It was worth the wait.
Yes, it was. Yes, absolutely. And I have kind of poked fun at them for years on the lengthy delay and the hiccupy starts. And what they came out with for a 1.0 release is absurd. You shouldn't be able to do this on a 1.0 release.
Absurd in a good way.
Absurd in a good way. I actually went on Twitter. I said, this is not a 1.0. This is a 3.0 from the future. Like the Scrivener developer was hanging out with Antoine for a couple of months, and it just showed up because it's that good as a 1.0 release.
Really the only thing that you can legitimately complain about are just certain features that are not there that you might want.
Yeah.
But for the most part, all the major features are there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my main complaint right now is I can't do snapshots, which is basically doing version control. But like that's in my mind a really minor feature.
And it will be coming, and Dropbox handles that too. So you're kind of, it's really cool. If you do any kind of major writing, it's definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, we're 10 minutes past the hour. Kevin had asked me to kind of lead the discussion tonight, but Kevin, I'm going to turn it back over to you to kind of sign us out here. Tell us where Theotek, other episodes and so forth can be found.
Yeah, of course, the easiest thing to do is just go to theotek.com, which is theotek.com, and you can find all the links there to how to download or watch. Of course, we have on YouTube, so please subscribe on YouTube. Audio versions show up on iTunes and in most podcasting apps, usually within about a week or so after the original. I'm trying to get that a little quicker. We've streamlined it a little bit with if this, then that, and tonight's the first time we'll see how well that works. So that's the best way to find it. Of course, we're on YouTube, Theotek Podcast, on Twitter as well, so follow us there. That's all the good stuff. So thanks, guys. This was fun. Enjoyed it. And
thanks a lot.
like you, Rick, I couldn't have imagined that we could go 35 45 minutes on or 40 minutes on Pokemon.
I thought, at about 10 minutes, I thought, well, what are we going to talk about next? And it just
Yeah, I
kept
figured
going,
we'd be filling most of the show with favorite things. So
Yeah.
You got to catch them all.
Just in case.
Gotta catch them all, Kevin. Come on,
Is
Kevin.
it possible to catch them all, or is that
It
just
is
something?
possible to catch them all. Yes.
Okay,
is
so I didn't know if
possible.
you had to go around the world to catch them all.
Nope.
You would have to be extremely A-type personality, but yes, you could catch them all.
Well, hey, let's go catch some Pokemons.
Probably not. Good night.